Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas. I'm Laura Sellier. Coming up in the programme, legalised pillaging, soaring inflation and a lack of basic goods. We look at the economic factors behind the violent unrest in Venezuela. Plus a sour note to St Patrick's Day celebrations in New York. Just why are gays and lesbians banned from taking part? And the woman who apparently had it all. We look at reaction to the shocking death of model and designer Loren Scott. But we begin in Venezuela, where unrest continues with supporters of the government pitted against those who want change. But what's at the heart of this divide? Because this isn't a simple case of the people trying to overthrow the government. The poorest in Venezuela support the ruling classes because of massive state subsidies. But others point to soaring inflation and an alarming crime rate. A closer look now at what's tearing this country apart.
It's a daily combat just to make ends meet. Protests against the rising costs of living have intensified.
Our household shopping costs us around €100 and the minimum monthly salary is €30. What can we buy? We're fed up with this government.
But the government just bites back with force, as this amateur footage purports to show. Recent clashes have claimed at least 30 lives. The country is at breaking point. And it's all due to the government's economic choices. Out with private enterprise, in with nationalisation. Hugo Chavez, who died a year ago, put the building blocks in place.
I declare an economic war.
But his successor, Nicolas Maduro, has gone even further.
I immediately ordered the pillaging of goods and the introduction of fair prices for the people.
A campaign of pillaging ordered by a president who believes prices are too high. This video shows people storming a department store, taking home as much as they can carry. The store's owners were arrested for price hiking.
Imagine that the French president had problems with his popularity and that he went to the Galeries Lafayette department store and said that the owners were thieves and ordered the police to open the doors and sell the products at 30% of the price. Well, his popularity would rocket immediately. And that's exactly what's happening here.
A policy with devastating effects. The number of private businesses has halved. They can no longer import their goods from overseas thanks to a currency devaluation. It's worth 10 times less than it was 6 months ago in relation to the euro. In supermarkets, the shelves are bare.
OK, guys, no more frying. We're out of oil.
For restaurateurs, it's been tough adapting to the shortages. Farmers no longer produce wheat or flour, and importing them is costly.
We're in a state of total desperation. Our economy is just being destroyed. An employee who earns the minimum wage, €1 per day, would need to work 1,500 years to be able to buy a flat.
While students and the middle classes are out calling for change, ironically, it's the worst off here that continue to support those in power, partly because they enjoy a range of benefits unheard of elsewhere in the world. This is the biggest supermarket in Caracas. It's nationalised and 100% subsidised by the state. Imagine a supermarket where the prices are as much as 70% cheaper than elsewhere. Those that have the right to shop here have no desire for change.
The meat that I've just bought here cost me €2 a kilo. In a private grocery store, it would be 3 times that price. And all this is thanks to our president.
But government coffers can't support this kind of help for much longer. A strange state of affairs, given Venezuela has the world's biggest oil reserves and should be living in opulence.
The chief executive at one of America's biggest car firms apologised personally this week over faulty engineering. Last month, General Motors recalled more than 1.5 million vehicles over an ignition problem linked to at least 12 deaths. Now, though, it's emerged that people at the company knew about the fault at least 11 years ago. Mary Barra called it a tragic situation. GM will now face a government probe and could be fined millions of dollars. There were celebrations for all things Irish this week when people around the world marked St Patrick's Day. But the festivities were marred somewhat in New York, with both the city mayor and sponsor Guinness boycotting the march after it was accused of being homophobic. Thomas Waterhouse takes a closer look.
New York's Fifth Avenue, like every March 17th, a sea of green in honour of Ireland's patron saint. It's the world's biggest St Patrick's Day parade, but it's an event that's becoming more and more controversial. Those taking part this year had to deal with a fair few hecklers in the crowd. Demonstrators lined the route to protest against one key policy, that you can certainly wear green to take part, but you still can't carry a gay banner. For 2 decades, rights campaigners have been pushing organisers to let them join in the fun.
We've been fighting this fight for 23 years now. It's obvious that gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community is excluded from this parade, and that's what we're fighting against. It's clearly homophobic.
It's been more than 250 years since the first marching bands paraded in New York for St Patrick. The parade was originally imported by an Irish religious organisation, the Ancient Order of Hibernians. Today, the event's organisers are keen to uphold traditions and the Catholic basis of the festival. For them, there is no way gay groups will march under the rainbow flag on this holy day.
They can march. There's no one stopping them. Just not under their own banner. They're just trying to bring attention to themselves and, not the place for it.
But this year, city authorities don't agree. The new mayor, Bill de Blasio, decided to boycott the parade, and Governor Andrew Cuomo, who recently brought in a new same-sex marriage law, was also absent. Faced with such strong standpoints, sponsors of the event have taken no risks. Beer manufacturers Heineken and Guinness have called last orders on their participation this year, a move applauded by the gay community.
We're encouraged and happy that Heineken and Guinness have just dropped their sponsorship of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade because of the parade's unapologetic homophobia.
But the Irish Prime Minister, after meeting President Obama, was all too willing to take part. For him, the parade is all about Irish and not sexual pride. St. Patrick's Day has quickly become a huge commercial success in the US, with Americans spending nearly $5 billion on it every year. But unlike New York, elsewhere across the states, like here in Chicago, gay men and women have been allowed to parade.
Model looks, a successful career in fashion and a rock star boyfriend. Lorenz Scott appeared on the outside to have it all. This week, though, the 49-year-old was found dead in her Manhattan apartment and police are treating it as a suicide. Hala Mahia-Dean looks at reaction to her shocking and untimely death.
She was a household name as Mick Jagger's girlfriend. But for the fashion community, Lorenz Scott was a celebrity in her own right. Scott has a huge following in Japan, and visitors to Tokyo Fashion Week expressed their shock and grief at her passing.
I'm really sad that we've lost such a talented designer.
It's a shock to the community, like the fashion community, and also just everyday people. So it kind of came out of nowhere.
Her career began when she was only 17 years old. Spotted by photographer Bruce Weber, she was whisked off to Paris, where her striking looks and statuesque 1.93 metre frame propelled her onto the catwalks of Chanel and Thierry Mugler. However, she tired of being, in her words, objectified as a model and turned her hand to working behind the scenes as a stylist. Her keen eye for what makes women look good won her an army of A-list fans, including Madonna, Penelope Cruz and Nicole Kidman.
Loren flowed from career to career effortlessly, seamlessly. There's no reason to understand that she wasn't the woman who had everything. She was a model. She was a stylist. She was a designer. She was with the most glamorous, fabulous man in the world.
She was working as a stylist for the Rolling Stones when she met long-term partner Mick Jagger in 2001. 5 years after they became a couple, she founded her own fashion label, but was careful to keep her self-made business separate from her famous boyfriend. And in the fashion world, she was a success. Vogue editor Anna Wintour led tributes, praising her marvellous clothes and strength of character, while fan Bette Midler hailed her rare talent. Lorraine Scott's distinctive style earned her a loyal following. Her fans now mourn the loss of a designer who was proud of her ability to make women of all shapes and sizes look good.
And finally, scientists in the United States say they've laid their hands on incontestable proof that the world did start with a Big Bang. The evidence is in the form of gravitational waves or ripples that spread across the cosmos in the wake of this vast explosion. Albert Einstein came up with a theory nearly a century ago, and scientists say this is the breakthrough they've been searching for decades. And if you want more detail on that or any of the other stories you've seen covered here, do go to our website, france24.com. But for me, it's goodbye and see you next time.